Good afternoon, Rainmakers. I just thought I'd take a couple minutes and try to put together a quick video on helping you prepare for negative. So first of all, if you're running negative this week, your affirmative team should have already sent you their flow, which included the harms, what the case is about, and what their plan is, their mandates, budget, etc., as well as their advantages. Once you know what that is, you kind of have an idea of what the case is and you begin to read about it, research it. If it is a sourcebook case, I would recommend you go to our Monument Publishing page and print off both the affirmative case and the negative case. Read the affirmative case first so you understand what the case is about and look at the affirmative case. Then look at the negative case. Like for example, if it was the death penalty, I would open up my neg brief and I would go ahead and take a look at it. At the beginning of the brief, it's going to have kind of a table of contents that you can kind of look at and think about, okay, what are some problems? Okay, inherency. Well, Biden moratorium. The death penalty is on hold indefinitely while Biden Justice Department reviews the policies and procedures. So you could argue that it's not a current problem in the system because President Biden has put a moratorium on federal death penalty. You could talk a little bit about harms or significance. Death penalty justified in at least some cases, why it's justified. So this is just a overview, and then you want to get into here and read that evidence and make sure it's good evidence. If there's evidence that, for example, the Biden moratorium, there's a lot of verbiage in this area. You might want to go ahead and just select what you want to read specifically. Then you want to think through what exact arguments am I going to run against that affirmative case. You might tag your first argument, argument 1, inherency. There's no current inherent harm. And then you would read this evidence. So you're going to need to print this negative brief. You'll want to have little tabbies so that if this is going to be argument 1, that you can tab it and know that you're going to go to this argument right off the bat. You might like a different piece of evidence down here that's some other thing, and that could be argument 2, so on and so forth. I'm going to just show you really quickly that if you have the policy debate handbook, most of the families checked this out the last 2 weeks. There's a lot of good information, but one of the pages on page 136 is a summary of the speaker roles. I would recommend you kind of look through that and look at what your 1NC and your 2NC should have and work with your partner on thinking through what your arguments might be. There's also a whole chapter on negative strategy. I'd also recommend you print off the brief and then you go through it and actually tag some of the things that you know you're going to run. So for example, I would tag an argument if this was going to be my response number 1, response number 2, response number 4, so that when I outline my speech, it is easy for me to find the correct evidence to read. Over here, I'm going to email you a quick template for a 1NC. The purpose of this is just to show you some structure. It's a more complex template than what you would actually probably want to use as a novice, but your most important thing is you may want to open with a quote or a story. You could talk about what the value of the round should be. Judge, in this round, we should value human dignity over profit, or whatever it is, that the human dignity should be the highest value of the round. You could define some key terms if there's something you feel the judge needs to understand. You could then address what the affirmative team said, and then you would then go into building your own case about what you think. So judge, at point 1, why we as the negative team feel that we should not pass the affirmative plan is point 1, it is not inherent in the current system. And then you'd read your evidence about Biden. But I would recommend that you make sure you look through your brief, you pick out the evidence that you think you want to use, you then kind of use maybe this template, or even if you just use this second page, some of the key things, key arguments you're going to run, and then have that ready to go for Monday.